I moved into the house on Lindale Street on the first day of October. It was a quaint, unassuming place, nestled between rows of vibrant maples and oaks that whispered the coming of autumn. The house itself was old but well kept, with a charm that seemed to welcome me with open arms. There was nothing about it that screamed haunted or cursed. It was simply there, waiting for someone like me to fill its empty rooms with life. The oddities began subtly. I would find objects, a book, a cup, a photo frame, slightly moved from where I had left them. Not enough to alarm me, just enough to make me doubt my memory. Then, the whispers started, soft, indistinct murmurs that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. I searched the house for hidden devices, wondering if this was some elaborate prank. But the whispers had no source. They were as much a part of the house as the wooden beams and plaster walls. At first, they were simply noises, a background hum that I tried to ignore. But slowly, they grew more insistent, more personal. The turning point came on a night of a full moon. I awoke to find the house bathed in a cold silver light, the whispers louder than they had ever been. "Look," they urged, not in words, but in an impulse that pulled at the very fibers of my being. I found myself standing before the mirror in the hallway, the moonlight casting my reflection in a ghostly pallor. But it wasn't my reflection I saw in the glass. Standing behind me was a figure, shrouded in shadows, its features blurred, but its eyes, oh, those eyes, were clear. They bore into me, filled with an unspeakable sadness, a longing that reached across the veil of death itself. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The house was silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifted as if it had never been. Yet the mirror told a different story. The figure remained, its gaze fixed upon me, a silent plea etched in those haunted depths. Days passed, and the figure in the mirror became my constant companion. It never spoke, never moved, but its presence filled the house with a palpable sense of grief. I researched the house's history, desperate for answers, but found nothing. No tragic deaths, no buried secrets. The house on Lindale Street was as ordinary as they come. And yet, the figure remained, a ghostly sentinel that watched me with eyes full of sorrow. I tried to communicate, to understand its message, but it remained silent, a mystery shrouded in the mists of the other world. I live with the haunting now. It's a part of my life, a reminder of something beyond understanding, a connection to a world just beyond the reach of the living. I don't know what binds the figure to the house to me, but I've come to accept its presence. The house on Lindale Street isn't haunted by violence or bloodshed. It's haunted by something far more profound, more unsettling. The inescapable weight of unspoken grief, a sorrow that transcends time and death. And in that, I've found a haunting far more terrifying than any tale of specters and curses. For what can be more haunting than the reflection of our own souls, mirrored back at us by the eyes of the departed, whispering truths we're not ready to face? The nights in the house on Lindale Street grew inexplicably colder, the darkness more absolute, as if absorbing the light from the few lamps I dared to keep on. The air was thick with an anticipation of something yet to come, a presence that lingered just beyond the edges of sight and sound. It began with the mirrors. One by one, they started to fog over, not with the steam of warmth, but with the chill of a breath that was not my own. No matter how often I wiped them clean, the haze returned, thicker each time, until the glass became as opaque as stone. And in that obscurity, something moved, a shadow that was not cast by any light in the room. I stopped looking into the mirrors, but that didn't stop it. The windows began to rattle in their frames, not from the wind, which had fallen silent, but from a force that seemed to push and pull at the very structure of the house. The doors creaked open only to slam shut, propelled by an unseen hand. And then, the footsteps started. They were soft at first, barely audible over the pounding of my own heart. But they grew louder, closer, a relentless march that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. I searched the house, armed with nothing but the dim light of my phone, but found nothing. The footsteps continued, a constant echo in the otherwise silent house. It was in the kitchen that I felt it, a cold so deep it seared, cutting through the fabric of my clothes and biting into my skin. The air shimmered with a darkness that was palpable, a void that seemed to pull at my very soul. And from that darkness, it emerged. There was no form to it, no shape that my mind could comprehend. It was a mass of shadows, a writhing, seething presence that filled the room with dread. The light from my phone flickered and died, plunging me into an abyss from which there seemed no escape. The whispers returned, louder than ever, but they were no longer indistinct murmurs. They spoke a language of fear, of despair, of a hunger that was ancient and insatiable. The air grew heavier, harder to breathe, as if the very atmosphere was being drawn into the void before me. I don't remember how I escaped the kitchen, how I found my way back to the relative safety of my room. The house on Lindale Street had become a labyrinth, its corridors twisted by the presence that now called it home. I write this now by the flickering light of a candle, the only source of warmth in this cold, dark place. The footsteps continue, a relentless march that draws ever closer. The shadows press against the crack under my door, seething and writhing in their hunger. I know not what the dawn will bring, or if I will see the sun rise once more. The house on Lindale Street is no longer mine, if ever it was. It belongs to the shadows, to the darkness that consumes all light, all warmth, all hope. And in this moment, I understand true horror. It is not in the knowing, but in the feeling, the experiencing of fear so profound, so primal, that it defies explanation or understanding. It is here, in the waiting, in the anticipation of what comes next, that terror truly lies. I feel it in my bones. The very marrow freezing as the terror takes a deeper, more insidious form. The house around me groans, the timber stretching and contracting like the chest of a slumbering beast. I am trapped, a mere passenger in this journey toward an unspeakable destination, and my only companions are the chilling whispers and the relentless, unseen footsteps. Tonight, the darkness calls louder than ever before. The air turns icy, and a heavy, suffocating dread settles upon my shoulders. I am drawn out of my makeshift sanctuary, my body moving against my will. The house shifts around me, the walls pulsating as if breathing to a rhythm dictated by some malevolent force. With each step, the wooden floorboards creak underfoot, whispering secrets long buried. I ascend the staircase, the railing cold and slick beneath my trembling hand. They're not just sounds anymore, they're palpable, wrapping around me like a cloak. At the top of the stairs, a force compels me to halt. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of decay and old earth. Before me stretches a corridor shrouded in impenetrable darkness. With each step toward that door, the temperature drops, and the skin on my arms puckers with gooseflesh. My breath clouds in front of me, and my teeth chatter uncontrollably, yet I cannot stop. The whispers grow into a scream inside my head, a single word repeated over and over, deeper. The door creaks open on its own as I approach, revealing a room swallowed by shadows. Unlike any other part of the house, this room pulses with a life of its own. The walls seem to move, undulate, and breathe. The air is thick with the stench of rotting flesh and sulfur, and my stomach churns in revolt. As I step inside, the door slams shut behind me, and the candle in my hand flickers out, leaving me in suffocating darkness. Panic claws at my chest, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then, the room illuminates with a dim red glow emanating from no visible source. The light reveals a landscape that stretches beyond the confines of the room, a hellish vista of twisted charred trees and scorched earth under a blood-red sky. The ground beneath my feet is no longer the solid floor of the old house, but a soft, yielding ash that stinks of brimstone. A river of what looks like molten silver snakes through the landscape, its banks lined with faces, tormented souls twisted in eternal agony. Their moans and wails fill the air, a soundtrack of despair. I realize then that I am not alone. A figure approaches from the shadows, its form shifting and changing. A fluid, dark mass at one moment, a distinct humanoid silhouette. Its eyes, if they can be called that, burn like coals in its amorphous face. "You brought me here," I whisper, my voice cracking under the strain of fear. "Why?" It stops a few feet away, the ground sizzling softly under its touch. "To show you," it hisses, its voice a meld of many, male, female, young, old, all tormented beyond measure. "Show me what?" My voice is barely audible, drowned out by the wailing of the damned around us. "Despair," it says simply, and with that, it reaches out. The touch of its hand is like fire and ice, pain and numbness spreading through my veins. Visions assail me, lives unlived, loves unloved, potentials unfulfilled. Each vision is a spear through my heart, a reminder of everything that could have been, but never was. I am released suddenly, collapsing to the ground. The figure recedes into the darkness, leaving me alone with the echoes of pain and loss. The visions continue to haunt me, each one a ghost that whispers of despair. Lying there in the heart of darkness, I understand the true nature of the house, of the hauntings, of my own torment. It isn't about fear or even horror. It's about the inevitable decline into despair that comes from bearing witness to what lies beyond this reality. The inescapable truth of existence that claws at the mind and shatters the spirit. Eventually, the visions fade and I find myself back in my room, the candle beside me somehow rekindled. The darkness of the house presses in on me, a tangible reminder of the nightmare journey I've just endured. The house on Lindale Street is not just a place of hauntings. It is a gateway, a threshold beyond which lies the true horror of understanding, an understanding of all that is lost, all that could have been, and all that should never be. As I sit here penning this final entry, the whispers have changed their tone. No longer do they speak of unseen horrors. They speak instead of acceptance, of embracing the dark truths I have witnessed. And perhaps, in that acceptance, there is a kind of peace, a surrender to the inevitability of despair, and the companionship of ghosts. May you never find yourself at the doorstep of such revelations, for in this knowledge there is no return, only the endless, echoing sadness of the soul, forever haunted by its own reflections in the shadows. As the dim candlelight flickers its final defiance against the encroaching darkness, I pen these words with a trembling hand, my mind reeling from the horrors it has witnessed. The house on Lindale Street, my unwitting sanctuary turned prison, now reveals its truest nature, not merely a dwelling, but a portal to a realm of nightmares, a personal hell sculpted from the depths of my darkest fears. In the aftermath of my harrowing journey through that desolate landscape of despair, the shadows within these walls seem thicker, pulsating with a malevolent energy. Sleep, once a refuge, has become a gateway to an endless, infernal night. Each time my eyes close, I am transported not into dreams, but into the very hell I had glimpsed. A world where the house on Lindale Street stretches infinitely, its corridors and rooms twisting into labyrinths of torment. Night after night I wander these endless halls in my dreams, the air thick with a palpable dread that clings to my skin like damp cloth. The walls are alive with the whispers of the damned, their voices a constant drone in my ears, narrating tales of woe and misery. Each room I enter is a vignette of horror, a tableau vivant of some soul's darkest moment. In one room, the walls bleed a ceaseless torrent of tears, the sorrow of the house made manifest. In another, the mirrors do not reflect my visage, but show me scenes of loss and ruin. Loved ones I have known or might have known, their faces twisted in anguish, their hands reaching out to me in silent supplication. I try to run, to escape the relentless unfolding of these nightmares, but the house is unyielding, its architecture an ever-shifting maze that confounds all sense of direction. Staircases lead to ceilings that dissolve into mist. Doors open onto vast voids of nothingness. Floors give way beneath my feet, dropping me into yet another circle of this hell. And at the heart of it all, in the deepest part of the house, there is a room unlike any other. It is here that the air grows oppressively warm, the walls glowing with an unholy light. This room pulses with the core of the house's malevolence, its center where all misery converges. As I push open the door, which resists like a thing alive, the room reveals its contents slowly. A heart, massive and grotesque, beats within a cage of rib-like beams. It is not a human heart, but the heart of the house itself, throbbing with a black ichor that seems to feed the darkness around it. The sight of it fills me with an existential dread, the realization that this house is not just a place, but a living entity, its every breath a sigh of infinite despair. Around the heart, shadows dance like flames, forming shapes that are at once familiar and utterly alien. Faces emerge from the darkness, eyes hollow with grief, mouths agape in silent screams. These are the souls the house has claimed, trapped here in its pulsating walls, forever part of its architecture of anguish. I know then that to dwell within this house, to live amidst its spectral presences, is to be slowly consumed by it, to become yet another shadow within its walls, another voice in its chorus of whispers. Each night as I dream, I feel it drawing me closer to its dark heart, beckoning me to join the lost souls it harbors. Awakening from these nightmares leaves me gasping for air, my body drenched in sweat, as if I had indeed been wandering the infernal corridors of my dream hell. The boundaries between sleep and waking blur, and I find myself unsure if I am truly awake or still lost within the house's dark dream. Now I sit in the eerie stillness of what I once called my sanctuary, the candle beside me guttering in the still air. I write these words not just as a record of my experiences, but as a warning. The house on Lindale Street is more than it seems. It is a crucible of the human psyche, a mirror reflecting our darkest fears back at us, magnified and monstrous. As the last vestiges of light die out, I resign myself to the night ahead, to the journey back into the house's heart. Whether I will emerge again, or if I am doomed to become part of its ghostly fabric, I cannot say. But I know this: the true horror of Lindale Street is not the ghosts that haunt it, but the house itself. A hell of its own making, a purgatory designed to test the soul, to refine it through fear and sorrow, until all that remains is a shadow, wandering its halls forever. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and please subscribe. Your support will help us tremendously. Thank you.